the biggest benefit every creator has now is that you are uniquely you. Like that's what it comes down to. And it's, if you're an artist, not everyone's going to consider themselves an artist, but if you're making videos on YouTube, if you're creating online, then you are a filmmaker. And no one can like strip away what makes you you. And it was the final note in my Donald Glover video, whereas, no one can outdo you at being you. And if you just really hone in on that and you use that to your advantage, then you are unstoppable.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for meeting with me. So what grabbed my attention, like a lot of people right now, is I saw your recent video essay about Donald Glover. And last year I put out a video about him as well. He's always been just, one of my favorite artists and inspirations. So, how are you feeling? Because that seems to be bringing your channel a lot of success really quickly. Yeah,
it was thing is, I've had two learning moments because of that video. And the first one, I spent about a month on it. I think as soon as it came New Year, I was like, okay, I want to work on this Donald Glover video that I'd been planning for a while.
Yeah.
So I kind of locked myself away for weeks, spending way too much time on it. And, obviously as a small channel, it's always a risk putting that much time into anything that you don't know whether or not. It's kind of a gamble. And so I posted it finally, and it was like letting my baby go off into the world. And initially it was really slow. It was a really slow like amount of views at first. So like my learning experience at first was like, maybe I shouldn't really put that much time into a video that I never know is going to do that well. And, all these reasons for like thinking that I just was being a bit like an idiot. And then a week later it starts climbing again. And I've had this like double moment where I'm like, okay, maybe I should just trust my instinct. And I knew it was going to eventually find an audience. It was just, it's been like an adventure, definitely, just because of that video.
That's great. So you say that you're a little bit concerned just because of the amount of time you put into it and whether or not that was worth it. How long did it take you to make?
I think I initially got the idea a while ago, but then in like mid-December, that was when I was going to start like really thinking about it. And so I started researching probably right at the beginning of January.
Okay.
And, I spent 2 weeks probably researching and writing, and then like another 2 or 3 weeks just editing. And so that's usually the way it goes. Like it's kind of 50-50 split. With every video, moving forward, I'm planning to like put most of the emphasis on research and writing. So like the post-production is just kind of snappy and quick, but it was a long time. And it was like a lot of the time, the whole way through I was thinking, I'm silly for like putting this much time into something where I don't know it's going to work or not.
Honestly, I'm glad you did, just because I think, anytime people invest time in making something good, especially if it's on a subject that's personal to them, it's like, I kind of think of it as a little bit of like a tortoise and the hare type analogy, where it's like, you're pushing along, but then it's going to be well worth it in the end, because if something's really good, then you'll have flocks of people coming to you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. In my case, like, I'll be honest, I think I might have spent like upwards of 6 to 8 months on the video I made, really. And granted, a big reason for that is I work on other projects simultaneously. But that was a video where, because I wasn't doing the traditional like YouTuber thing of just like trying to get a video out, I would kind of passively write it for months and archive clips. And then it was like a very like multi-month process of just editing it when I could. And, it's like some edits you can bust out really fast. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I'm going to spend forever on this one After Effects sequence. And then when you're done, you're like, oh, it looks really good, but I just spent so much time on this one shot. Yeah. So I respect a lot that you're able to get everything out in like a 1 month process, it sounds like, for your other videos, because that's, for me at least, not that much time for making high quality stuff.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you a lot of some questions about that, because I watched it and I was kind of stunned by it, purely on the most like
Thank you.
Especially as someone who recently made my version of it, and I watched yours, and it was just seeing something that felt so different, but it's about the same topic. I was like, I had so many questions, and like the first one is just, was that just all you by yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. So well, that's really impressive.
I had one friend who helped me archive some clips. I wound up making a spreadsheet of just all the media I wanted. And in some case, there would be a very specific thing that I knew existed, but I didn't know where to find it. And then in other cases, it would be a little bit looser. Like, I need a clip where somebody's roughly saying this, and it'll support my argument, And so I did have my one buddy, Munzer, who he makes great animated stuff on YouTube as well. He helped me find some stuff. But as far as all the editing and research, that was all me.
It's cool. Yeah, because I could feel. I mean, at times they were like, you did that as well. Like, there's some really cool animated graphics in that, like, definitely. And then, but on top of that, just the purely like informational sense you had, like, I was watching it and I thought, this is what a video essay is. This is truly,
thank you.
Like,
that's
the
very
embodiment
kind
of it. It's just true. Like, the analysis, the deep like breakdown of it. It's like, I'd read it like it was a thesis. It was really well made.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And, I felt the same way about yours, which is why I reached out. And it turns out I've found your channel before, and I was like, oh, it's the same guy. So my favorite YouTubers are Corridor Digital. And I was last year planning on making a video about how, like, I was going to make a thesis about how, like, they're like the gold standard for YouTube. And I was going to kind of just use like Corridor Crew mostly as like showing like how they do what they do. And then you took an even more zoomed in perspective and talked about their reaction series. Yeah. And it was really good. And I remember at the time, was that like your first video essay or like one of the first?
I've been making them on like TikTok on short form for a long time. And then that was my first like deep dive into extending it long form. So that was, beginning of 2021, I think, or December 2020, which is, or whenever it was. But it was a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, so when I saw your recent one, I was like, oh, it's the same guy. We have very similar interests, I guess. And the big thing that I noticed about your work is that you have, I think, a high attention to detail, which makes it more impressive to me that your turnaround time is so quick. Because, like, for instance, when you're doing the title cards and it says like 2013 and you have like the stroke outline and then the fill with like different opacities and it's like lightly shaking and like it has like a nice amount of blur to it, stuff like that. You could just really easily not do any of that and save yourself a lot of time. But it's, I think, what makes it to where then people enter the comments and they go, this is so well edited, but they maybe can't place why, but they can just kind of feel it.
It's like, it's a subconscious thing a lot of the time. I think people, they really notice that like extra 10% of effort you put in. And it's a lot of the time, it's not even like when I'm working on a project, it's not necessarily even like actually you're putting 10% extra effort in. It's kind of sometimes just 10% extra care. And it's knowing, okay, if I care just a little bit more about this project, then you're going to find yourself like doing something else you wouldn't have done in the past, or, just treating something a little bit differently. And when I do those like extra little touches like that, that is kind of what rubs off on people. I mean, a lot of the time though, it's just like I spent the time previously working out like a cool little thing, which can be then just repeated throughout. And I did that. It was just copy and paste throughout the whole thing. But
so is that like just, almost like a text preset you can then just
kind
recycle?
of. I mean, now I just make a bunch of stuff that in like when I'm in between videos, I'm always like working out what my style is, working out like trying to build up this sort of portfolio of effects and stuff. Kind of like a brand kit, and then it can just be recycled, and that's just the quickest way of staying efficient.
I need to be a lot better about that, because there's so many times where I'm like rebuilding something from scratch in After Effects, and I'm like, you've done this before, you should just go. But I need to make like a library where it's easily accessible. But yeah, that's a really good idea. One moment, my paranoia, I just want to make sure the camera's like actually going. Do you mind if I check really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I can actually see it from here.
Can you see the red
all
dot?
Good. Yeah, we're all good. It's like when you're head on with it, you can't. And since I do all of this myself, sometimes I'm like, oh, that would suck. So yeah, I was looking at your TikTok and seeing that you've been doing all this short form content for a really long time. I'm curious, like, what's your time management like? Like, how many hours a day do you work, or how do you ration, like, okay, I'm going to work on YouTube and now I'm going to work on TikTok? Because doing everything is like a bedroom filmmaker, so to speak. I think it can be really hard, especially when you don't have like a syllabus or like a boss telling you when deadlines are.
Yeah, I think so. It all started for me just purely because TikTok was like the easiest way of building a platform, building an audience. And so after like the initial just throwing stuff up on the platform and hoping something sticks, and then I finally started gaining an audience, that was 100% of my time pretty much, because I prioritized growing that TikTok because back then I was just like a freelance editor and I wanted to find gigs. And so having a TikTok that has a showcase of all my skills and editing, then it became like a really good way of building a client base, people who came to me to sort of wanted my editing. And so that was my main priority, because I knew that in between work as an editor, just making these small little TikToks that were showcasing different types of editing were like the easiest way of keeping, like, getting my name out there. That was like my main priority for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then I had a big conversation with myself. I was like, is this what I want to do? Is this like my future goal? And I think that I've always wanted to be like a filmmaker and be a director one day. And I just thought that working as an editor for these YouTube clients who don't really care about me, or aren't paying me that well, and making TikToks that, I'm proud of, but like they're not fulfilling really. They didn't really align with my goal. And so I said, okay, I have to take this YouTube thing seriously, because obviously it's, as like an online creator, it's kind of the homepage of all of it, but I put it off for so long because it was just such a daunting idea of trying to build an audience on YouTube, because it's the hardest one probably. But then I thought it was kind of about September last year where I finally, because I've been on and off all of 2022 pretty much, but in September last year I thought, okay, I'm gonna take this seriously. And then before I really started, I kind of worked out what my plan was for the next few months, of what my brand was, or what videos I was going to make. And I knew that targeting creators or YouTubers or celebrities and stuff, and hopefully getting their like approval on it is like an easier way of growth. And it worked like that. And, luckily, because I worked as an editor for a while and had some really good clients, then I built up a little bit of capital, right? And so like now I can kind of just pour 100% of my time into the YouTube. I mean, that's still not much. Like I don't like giving myself long hours, so I'm probably not putting any more than like 6 hours in a day. But it depends. I've just last week just looked into hiring a researcher for someone who can kind of do a lot of the nitty gritty, scouring the internet for tiny little one-liner clips that I know are out there. As opposed to just now I can focus all on like the writing and the post-production.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think your strategy was really smart. Some things I resonated with there is I'm 26 and I finished film school at the very end of 2017. And then after that, I went into having like a corporate video editing full-time job. And then that's kind of when I started doing my YouTube channel. And it wasn't until 2 years in I made my first video essay and started to get a little bit of an audience. And I think that like it's great that you worked and you saved up money and you kind of got to a point where you can kind of have the freedom to make your own things. And your strategy of kind of targeting YouTubers and other artists and stuff, and maybe hoping they'll see it, is really great. My question for you is like, when you're deciding what to talk about, do you ever have a temptation to talk about something that's kind of trendy, or do you try to focus on things that are like really important to you? Because with, Corridor, they are a big YouTube channel, but they're not like the sexiest, flashiest YouTube channel. It's not like you're talking about like, some major influencer. And I know you did a video about Logic, and he's one of your favorite musicians, if I'm right. So how do you kind of decide what to talk about? And because it's like there's the self-passion, but then there's also, hoping people will watch it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something you have to juggle. I think I would never start something if I wasn't genuinely interested in it. Like even the videos I've made, which weren't about anyone that I was really familiar with before, and I knew it was going to do well, like specifically the Try Guys video. I hadn't ever watched a Try Guys video, and I knew that they were the talk of the town, and everyone was interested in him at that point. But like the reason I started it is because after I'd like read up a bit about it, I realized how like fantastic of a story it actually was and how interesting it really was. And so I was fascinated by it. But most of the time it's just, you know, a subject that I really feel inspired by, and I feel like would resonate with a large amount of people. Like the Donald Glover one, that was, you know, everyone knows that's a story that, you know, the multitasking king is just something that I've always known of for a long time. But usually it's just, you know, someone that I like, I'm inspired by, and I know has like a story with some conflict in it, with some hurdles that they had to overcome, like the Nardwar video.
Yeah.
And so like I would never just dive in and make a video just because it's hot. No.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because I think that there's a lot of very talented editors out there making video essays, but I just kind of don't believe them when it comes to the subjects that they're talking about. And sometimes I think that can range from making a video about an artist and it comes out like the day before their new album is coming out, you know, and I can tell that they're just kind of racing to like a release date for the algorithm, and the thing they're talking about hasn't even happened yet. In cases
it's a different
like
approach.
And you know, I think a lot of these guys are very good editors and very hard workers and very talented, but I wanted to reach out to you just because, like, with video essays and analysis and stuff, obviously it's like kind of taking over the internet right now, and I think anytime people actually care about what they're talking about and try to go the extra mile, especially with research and relevant clips, that's a big thing. I think a lot of times with video essays, the clip on screen and what the narrator is saying have nothing to do with each other even, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like, so with you, like, I felt like just every single cut was super intentional, and like what was on screen was what you were talking about. And I think that's great. I think I was paying attention more so to like how you were editing and how the pacing was going than I was paying attention to the information. Just so with the Donald Glover one, for instance, you have it come out the gates going like pretty fast, and it's with the music, and you know, you kind of have it take almost like this 3-act like story structure. It kind of feels like a documentary in a sense. Do you map out kind of how much time you're going to spend on a certain thing, or does that just come into your writing structure? Because you have like a very, I think, rhythmic editing to where it feels like a story is being told the whole time and it doesn't really meander.
I'm glad you think that. Yeah, that's definitely the priority. I know, like, one of the differences I've really felt with yours and mine is that I think we're slightly coming at it from different like artistic styles.
Sure.
And like I think one of the things that made me like think about myself when I watched yours was, I was like, wow, did I really have like nothing to say? I don't know. It was like, you had like a really strong and precise opinion on everything, which it really came across. And then I wondered, I think I took a bit more of like a, you know, narrative, like, I don't know, like an opinion over the top. I was just looking down on it without really like being down on the ground with an opinion. But yeah, like the priority is I want to like convey an emotion the whole time. It's always every single story beat has to have a very clear theme and emotion, and like the music and the way it's edited and the way it's written, it reflects that. I'm very big, like during the research and the writing phase, between the research and the writing, there's like, I give myself 4 or 5, 6 days sometimes, just like splitting that research up into chapters and working out what the segments are. And I follow like a pretty strict like story structure that will like determine everything down the line. And once I've got that, then it kind of all falls into place. But the main emphasis is always just like, how can I work out what emotion needs to be told right here, and what emotion do I need the audience have like leading into the next chapter? You know, how does that bridge between them like link, and how does that make them feel? Like, is that too soon to do that sort of thing? So I'm always thinking about that. Like, it's like a big priority of mine is just trying to push that story like as far as it can go.
I think you're doing a great job of it, honestly, because, you know, with my video, I did go a little bit opinion piece, and I was kind of talking about events that had happened, but then how I interpret them and they make me feel. And with you, I think you're doing what a lot of people do, where it's kind of presenting just a ton of information, almost like from a historical context. You're, almost like a independent documentary maker at that point. And I think a lot of people, they just it just feels like you're watching a Wikipedia page, and it's not really interesting. And I think for you to actually make it feel like a narrative story, but also without like infantilizing things, it's not like you were exaggerating or lying to get there. I think that you did it completely just with like the pacing. So I think you're doing a really good job of your goals. I'm curious, how much time do you spend finding music, and where do you get your music? Because I thought that it was really good, and obviously trying to make sure you don't get demonetized is a thing.
Yeah, well, like all my music comes from either Epidemic or Envato Elements.
Okay.
Like, I think honestly, all the music platforms, I'm not like linked to any of them, so all the music platforms are pretty much as good as each other. That's what I found. But like those are the ones I've just got, and I did have a struggle when I first started making YouTube videos back then, and an issue I had was with the music, because I felt like it never quite matched the emotion I wanted to find, and I would be searching for ages and ages and ages. But like the secret little hack that I found when it comes to like editing music is the Premiere Pro remix function.
Oh my God. I found out about it recently. You want to explain how it works?
It's just like it solves every problem I ever had, because I always like, okay, the crescendo of this song doesn't quite match like my writing, and it ends wrong, or it ends the wrong place. And so that remix function, you can just make any cut you want, trim it to be the exact right time, and like AI uses wizardry or whatever to like remake the song in the perfect length you have. And once I figured that out, once I knew that was possible, then you can use almost any song in the world, as long as it has the right emotion you've got, and make it match exactly. It's like you've got your own composer. It's probably Adobe's lacking in every department pretty much, but that thing is just you should get Premiere Pro purely for that function.
Yeah, no, it's great. So basically, it's like if you have a song and you want to not use the middle because maybe there's lyrics or something, normally what you'd have to do is you'd have to cut on beat and then cut on beat and kind of stitch the front and the end together. But Premiere has this new tool where it's like you lob off a chunk of the song and then you just drag it, and then it just kind of creates like a loop for you, which is, producers, they have to spend time making a loop. This thing just like does it.
Yeah.
AI. And I started using that recently. I learned about it through like a TikTok or something, and I was like, what? That's in the program this whole time?
It's really cool. That way you can use anything, and like it's just it's one step towards the future where like you could just imagine anything and create it, and anything that makes it easier for you to tell your story or create anything you want, then I'm a huge advocate for it, and it's such a good feature.
Yeah. I want to ask, since obviously we're both filmmakers, but doing YouTube, which is a little bit of a new thing. I could be wrong about this. I imagine that directing films maybe is a higher goal for you than YouTube. And so if you were to do that, like, what's an example of a movie you think you would make, or, what type of stuff would you like to direct?
It's a good question. And it's something that I thought about a lot more before I started making YouTube videos. I think when I was like a teenager, I was always I was more of a film bro then, and I've kind of faded away from it a little bit. But like my favorite film is Catch Me If You Can by Steven Spielberg, and I think that's sort of like unassuming character that like goes against the man. I love that sort of thing. But also films like Lars and the Real Girl with
it's a great movie.
Ryan Gosling. And any of the Studio Ghibli movies, Kiki's Delivery Service is one of my favorite. I don't really know what I would make. Like I used to want to be a director. I also wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a cinematographer at one point. I've kind of jumped between all of them, and like it's hard for me to imagine myself being in one role in anything I make. And I want to kind of have my hand in everything. And so just imagining myself being on set and directing actors or something, it doesn't quite match what I have in mind for myself. Like I look at Kane Parsons, who does the Backrooms short films on YouTube, and he's recently got that deal with A24 to direct like a feature-length movie, and he's 17 years old, and it's
I didn't know about that. That's crazy.
it's unreal. Like he deserves it so much, and I think they gave him that opportunity because obviously he's got this portfolio of like showcasing how brilliant he really is, but it's because he's like he's one of those creative people who has such a brilliant way of building atmosphere, and they know exactly what they want in every facet. And I think that I wonder how he'll feel just being a director as opposed to like being the one who handles all the post and all the CG and like writes it all and everything like that. And it's I don't know, I feel that way about myself. Like you know, Kane Parsons is like a million miles above everyone, but like it's I just don't know, I don't really know what I want. I think I'm just going to take it a day at a time, and right now I'm focusing on YouTube. I don't know if this will be like a 5-year plan or whatever, but we will see.
Yeah, totally. You know, I've heard this sentiment from other people before, and I've kind of thought it as well because I'm constantly making things, you know, and it's like, yeah, like you mentioned before, if I'm making that video essay, I'm doing editing and motion graphics. If I'm making a short film, you know, maybe I'm filming and then doing color grading, and it can be very addicting kind of being a jack of all trades and putting a lot of time into a job where you're just doing like the one thing, so to speak. I think there can be a fear there. For me, like my goal is just to always be artistically gratified with what I'm making, you know, and my thought is like, okay, well, I'm not going to die, you know, like as soon as I get done making this movie or whatever. So if this chunk of my life is making this thing and then it's all said and done and I'm super proud of it, and then I can kind of go right back to what I was doing. I guess I try to have like a mindset of abundance that it's all possible, you know? And so I guess, I don't know. I can tell that you really love art and filmmaking in general, and it seems like you have a good taste. So I guess just if you ever do have the opportunity to make movies more, I hope. I think that you probably can do that and then still do YouTube and stuff like that, and you know.
We'll see. I mean, it's been done, hasn't it?
I
think we're probably like we're pioneering a future. Obviously, none of this has happened before, and you're 26. I'm only 22, so like neither of us are in a rush. I know that we have many more years of things working out what's to come, and pave it. Like it sounds a bit ego driven, but like we'll be paving a new path because there's like there's just not been done before. This type of filmmaking, juggling all these types of ways of creating an audience, creating art, creating money. You know, it's never been done before, and so like that's really exciting. Sometimes I stay up at night thinking, what is it going to mean? You know, are we doing the right thing? Like our previous generations are looking down on us and thinking, you know, we're idiots. But like then it's, I don't know. I'm optimistic about it as well. At the end, like it's just it's a really great job just to kind of pour all this time into saying anything you want to say, and if you're lucky, people like it too. So it's just it's the best time ever to be a filmmaker, I think. Yeah,
I totally agree. Jessica, you were saying that you previously were like more of a film bro, and now you've kind of waned out of that. So for me, like I still love filmmaking, but I didn't really get into YouTube as a viewer and a fan until a little bit after film school.
Okay.
And I think when you're in film school and you're learning filmmaking, you're kind of told a lot of like ways in which you have to do something, you know, very conventional ideas of filmmaking. And I think the internet and YouTube is kind of breaking that very much so, where people are thinking super outside the box. And that's where, like, you know, like you said, a 17-year-old kid making backrooms animations can get a movie deal.
Yes.
I'm curious, for you, do you think that just kind of seeing like more boundless possibilities through the internet and internet video makers has kind of become more attractive to you than traditional film, and maybe that's like where that's waned for you a bit?
That's an interesting point. I think you have to treat them as different art forms nowadays. I think, especially when you know online content was first coming through, like mid 2000s, early 2010s, and it's like that was a totally different thing. And as we've moved forward, they've like traditional TV media and YouTube, they've kind of, we're reaching this sort of middle point where we're both kind of replicating each other. And I think it's going to get closer and closer and closer, and then kind of just bounce back and go opposite directions again, because you know there's really great YouTubers now who make these long form YouTube videos that feel like amazing television episodes, and they could be on TV. I mean, you should watch them on TV, and it's amazing to see that. But like, I just think we're probably going to bounce back, just like how we had in the conversation about the Mr. Beastification of YouTube and how these creators were doing the same thing. It was sensationalized, and now we're kind of drifting away to these longer, slower stories that will have more emotional impact. I think when it was like that, when YouTube was in that era, just to go back to your question, I think I was definitely more into film then, because it felt like such opposites. You'd watch this Mr. Beast video and you'd be like stunned by it, but then you need to like really, when I want to like consume something, think about it, you'd have to sit down and watch a film. And if you watch too much Mr. Beast, it would be harder for me to watch a film. You know, if I watched too many films and I'd watch something, on YouTube that was, really crazy, then it would feel like it was an anxiety attack, And so like when they're so opposite each other, that's when I think we end up just gravitating towards one or the other. And we're reaching this point now where like you can watch something on YouTube and it feels like TV, and they're the same thing, and they're getting closer and closer. I don't really know what's going to happen next, but like they're different art forms, they're different art forms. And I like right now, I'm getting back into loving film. But I don't know. I don't really know what the future holds.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I think when we're younger, also we have maybe a bigger ability to enjoy a bunch of different types of stuff at once. When I was a kid, I was watching TV shows and movies all the time, and playing video games and finding new music. And these days, I feel like I gotta pick like one or two of those interests at a time. It's like if I'm watching a ton of movies, I'm usually not finding new albums I love. So for me, like, getting more into YouTube and just finding tons of really amazing people on here, kind of wound up watching less movies. And then if I'm watching some, I'm not watching TV. And it's bittersweet, because I think it is nice to get kind of hyper focused into something. But I don't know. Lately, I've been starting to watch movies more frequently again, because I was kind of falling off. I'm like, I love filmmaking though. It's great. So we were just talking about Mr. Beast. I saw that you actually did a little bit of editing work for him, right?
Yes, I did.
It was for this him making people not blind anymore video that's going real viral, right?
Yeah. That was the video. It was. I got the opportunity through Hayden Hillier-Smith, who I've been working with for a while, and he's like kind of acted as my mentor a little bit. And so he was the one who was editing that video for months, and he was like, I need some help with some little animation bits, and it gave that kind of creative free reins to me. And so I came up with that kind of scrapbooky, comic booky style thing. And it was amazing. Like that was definitely the most coverage any of my works ever gotten, because it got like 80 million views in like 3 days or something.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, just because it's Mr. Beast, it was nuts. And then the idea was really, really good. I know that Hayden is going to make a breakdown on his YouTube channel about that whole process, because it was it's a process to like, it's interesting to watch, believe me. And so it was just really cool that like I kind of could be told to do anything I want. And I mean, the Mr. Beast like post-production process, when I really got a grips of what the workflow is and how many people are involved, and the budget and everything, it blew my mind. And to have that in one side of my brain, but also be told, okay, just do what you want, we'll see if we like it, and we throw it up there. It was amazing. It was a really cool opportunity. And so I kind of just did what I want. And then the final versions, I had like 1 or 2 notes on a few of those animations, and the final thing was just straight in the video. And then I saw it and I watched it and I was like, wow, that was me. It's really crazy.
That was really the world is a small place kind of moment for me, because I don't really watch Mr. Beast that often, but every now and again I'm like, all right, that's a good title, I'm gonna click on that. And I was like, oh, Mr. Beast is doing socialized medicine, okay. So I was watching it, and sure enough, when those animations came up, I think you did one maybe where like a basketball is spinning or something like that, and like a go-kart. I remember thinking like, oh wow, Mr. Beast with the fancy motion graphics. And then so that was like, a week or 2 ago, whenever. And then now I was doing some research on you, and I saw you were the one who did it. I was like, of course this guy is who did that. So it's that was just funny for me. How you were talking about how many people are involved, like, did you get a grasp of how many editors worked on a video like that?
Not really. Like from my perspective, it was like me and pretty much Hayden, and he was kind of relaying all the, everything that was going on behind the scenes. But he was, initially it was just, he was given the footage and just told, okay, you've got this until this date, just see what you can do. And it was just kind of him shutting away. And then he had a final like day to show it to everyone. And that's when I think everyone gets involved. But like from what I've heard, it's an absolute behemoth of a team, and everyone has like a really specific role, and people can jump in. But he is able to just move all these people to North Carolina and work with him in this big, huge warehouse. It's like, however you feel about Mr. Beast, it's like the most admirable thing in the world to just say, okay, this is my thing. I know what I'm good at. And now I'm gonna pour every penny I earn into this thing and make sure that like I can just keep doing it forever. And that's like, it's what we all want to do in our own like version in life. And he's just decided, all right, fuck it, now's the time. I'm gonna excel on this right now. It's amazing.
Yeah. I honestly really respect Mr. Beast because like I think he's an easy target to make like jokes or memes about because his content is just like so insane, but like, and just so blatantly engineered for the algorithm. But at the same time, like he's doing what he loves, and he's essentially made like a money printing machine where he's giving most of the money to other people from what we can tell at least. And so it's like at that point, I don't really have anything bad to say about him. And it's like, he's really built something unlike anything else. Like I couldn't be doing that, but
yeah, I know.
Did he ever directly reach out to you? Have you guys communicated? I think I saw you post something like that.
Yeah, not before the video, but then after it went live, he DM'd me on Twitter and followed me and was like, yeah, I want to do some more work. So we'll see what's down the road. Hopefully I can do a bit more of that now and then. But yeah, like that would be cool. I kind of want to just get to a position where I can pour 95% of my time into making my videos, and then now and then do some cool little bits for some people on some projects that I really like, and that seems like that might be an opening for it.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, that kind of brought me just to a wider thing I wanted to ask you about. You've had tremendous luck getting the attention of the people that you make videos about. How's that been for you? Because I know with your corridor video, them and Ren kind of left comments and reached out to you. But then I was doing research and I did your kind of 2022 retrospective like Twitter thread. I was like, damn, every person you talk about somehow sees the thing you made. So how's that been for you?
Like I said, it was in my strategy. Like I knew it was possible from the beginning that, I don't think I would have done it if I hadn't thought about the potential, the potential there. And I think the first one I did was the Sidemen, and I knew that my goal there was to get them to do a video on their Sidemen Reacts channel, and I managed to achieve that. And it was just all kind of luck. I know that when I was making videos, like all these celebrities and these people, they have things made for them all the time. It's like fan art videos or whatever. And, I'm sure they have to scroll through a lot of kind of just rubbish a lot of the time. And I knew that you could stand out actually quite easily just by, like we said, putting in that extra 10%, and they will resonate with that. That was what I was hoping for, at least anyway. And clearly, like I've just learned that the YouTube algorithm is pretty astonishing in its own way, and like it comes to the people you want it to see as long as you have it in your mind from the beginning. And so all it took was one of them to see it, or like one of their crew, one of their like a large number of fans, and then the whole group saw it and they did a react video on the video, and like that was an amazing surreal experience. And then Sean Evans from Hot Ones saw the video I did on that. Nardwar saw that video. Logic was a crazy one. I just woke up Christmas Eve and he DM'd me and said that he loved the video, and it was, I don't really know how it happens or like what leads to get to that point. I think that's kind of all just algorithms and people being nice to get to that point. But it's just because the video has to be good enough for people to care about it, and that just eventually all leads down to you as the creator. You've got to think, does this video deserve to be seen by this person? Will I be, if I showed this to a room of 500,000 people would I be embarrassed? You know, like it has to, you have to treat it like it's going to get 1 million views from the beginning, and then if you're lucky, things just fall into place.
No, yeah, that's really amazing. I think the thing I'm struck by is, you know, you said that it was part of your strategy, but obviously there's no guarantees. Were you doing anything like emailing it to them directly to try to get them to see it, or did you just kind of post to YouTube and just kind of hope?
It was more so the second one. Like I think it was just post and pray that the video is good enough that people will like it. I think I made like a Twitter thread. I might have tagged a few people on Twitter, but like there was no direct like trying to take it straight to them. I knew that the power of the people usually is more impactful, and you can kind of just use that as like this method to kind of just bounce along the ground, and eventually your video will find it there, as opposed to trying to jump the whole way by yourself. So yeah, it's usually just let things do its thing, and it works.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting, and you know, I love Nardwuar, so I was excited to see that he saw that. And so I was looking at your past videos, and obviously you've had a few that have gone viral and have hundreds of thousands of views. One thing I was really impressed by is, you know, I thought your Hot Ones video was great, and I saw that Sean Evans had commented on it, so, you know, I kind of assumed like, oh, it probably has like 1 million views or something, but it has 12,000, which, you know, is a great accomplishment, but obviously that's not like, you know, hundreds of thousands. So the fact that he even saw it off of it, you know, being a 12,000 viewed video, that says a lot to me that, you know, people are more reachable than we think, and on top of that, people don't really care if the view count or the subscriber count is like Mr. Beast level or like up and comer, as long as the content is really good.
Yeah,
they'll like it.
I've been finding that. I mean, I think like now I'm learning that everyone is like you're like 3 or 4 connections away from most people, and once you build that network a little bit, you realize that everyone is reachable, like you say. But yeah, like that Hot Ones one, I think it just had to fall into the lap of anyone who'd ever worked on Hot Ones. I heard that it went around their office and they were all sharing it with each other, and so eventually Sean saw it that way. But yeah, it's incredible. Like most of the comments I've been getting on the recent Donald video were, I watched this video and I expected to see a 1 million subscriber creator, or just to have 10 million views or whatever. And it's, yeah, people don't care about that. Like they have these preconceived expectations of content, like quality guarantees, you know, a large following or whatever, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can just treat it from the beginning. And I think it was just a mindset shift for me to think, okay, I'm just going to treat it like I already have 1 million people waiting for the next video. And then you're going to like smash those expectations of people thinking that if you've got 50,000 subscribers, then you should be making videos that fit the 50K channel, which is, it doesn't have to be that way at all.
Yeah, completely. I think it's a little bit unfortunate what sort of expectations we place on art and artists kind of based on the markers of success that we need. I've gotten a lot of those comments before as well, and I take them as compliments that they're saying that they would think I have so many subscribers or whatever, but at the same time, to take it more literally, it's like people should expect, you know, someone with no subscribers in one video to have something really good, because if someone's super talented, you know, it's like they got to get started somewhere. And so if my homepage ever feeds me some video with like 200 views, I'll still like take a chance, because I'm like, what if this is the guy?
You know? I know. It does happen. Like I've seen loads of videos like that where you finish it and you have this like real emotional connection to it, and then you realize that it was just like one like 16-year-old in their bedroom, you know, making this fantastic video essay. I saw like Hank Green tweet out a few like last week. He just shared this video essay about some music artists, and he said it was like one of the best videos he'd ever seen, and it had like 1,000 views. And it just means that like anyone, I think when we've all come like so used to seeing numbers that they kind of have lost their meaning now. And even just 1,000 viewers, that feels like nothing. It feels like it's, you know, like 1 or 2 people have watched it, when it really, that's not. Like 1,000 people is a lot. And in that 1,000, it might have been Hank Green who shared it on their Twitter, who got you loads more views like that. You never know who's in that group. And like I don't know if that's what it takes to sort of unlearn that. But like now with that Hot Ones one, I know it's not my best performing video, but it's also one of the ones I'm most proud of, and ended up being seen by the person that I made it about. And you can just see it a different way, and it's beautiful regardless. If you just pour yourself into anything you make, then whatever happens afterwards, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and you pointed out like, oh, of 1,000 people, one of them might be this really special person, and that's amazing. And for me, like a larger point is like it's 1,000 people. It's like even if you want like 1 million views, if you just like close your eyes and picture a room with like 1,000 people in it, it's like it's like performing for a theater, right?
It's like an auditorium, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go in the analytics and you see that the average view time is the first minute, and you're like, okay, maybe not everybody stayed in the room, but a lot of people did, and I think it's important just to remember that and not get discouraged. Obviously people need to pay their bills, and so people want these big numbers to be able to sustain themselves. But as far as like being proud of yourself and encouraged to keep going, it's like I don't know. There was a time where videos with 1 million views was so rare, and obviously now we see that every day. But even 1,000 or 12,000, it's like it's a surreal amount of people to care about something you're doing.
Yeah, I know. I think like I've been making videos for, online for a while now, and especially when I was on TikTok, it was worse. One of the reasons I had to leave was just because it felt detrimental to like me as an artist and like as a person, just because regardless of what you say about it, like if you're a creator, then you're gonna have some sort of emotional connection to the views that you get and the analytics and stuff like that. And there's no way of escaping that, genuinely. Like you can just pretend that you do everything for the love of the art, but it's deeper than that. And so when I was on TikTok, it was because I felt like even though I had a couple 100,000 followers, I really felt like a lack of connection with any of them, really. I mean, you see these recurring comments from people that I've been there for a while, but like I just still didn't feel like an emotional attachment to like the numbers. But then you end up, because of that, every time a video doesn't do too well or something flopped and I'd spent a long time on it and it didn't do that well, there was like, so it felt like it mattered so much more because there was like no safety net. Now, like my next YouTube video, I've had 2 really good ones, and the next one, if it doesn't do too well, like it's not going to hurt anywhere near as much, because I know that like I'm slowly establishing this really strong sense of community, like in the followers. But just on short form, I just didn't feel that at all, and I had to escape it because it just felt bad for me, like as a person.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I at the beginning of this conversation, I was asking you more about TikTok because honestly, that's one thing I am not good with at all. Like I need to start diving in and kind of just learning to do that. And I think the biggest thing that intimidates me is the time commitment, to where it's like I'm putting so much of my energy and time into like the main content, and then the idea of making like micro content about it, like that kind of drives me insane. But I know it's probably the fastest thing I could do to make myself more successful. And it's like just a completely different platform as well. So, even knowing what people are going to respond to and like, do you get pretty artistically gratified from making TikTok? Because, for me, if I put a bunch of time into one and it didn't do well, I think my frustration would be that like I care about it less. And so I would be mad that I used all my time on something I care about a little bit less. But for you, I can see that you have artistic direction even in social media posts. So I'm wondering artistically how that is for you. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, like a reason I left TikTok initially was because I had this urge to like tell longer stories and dive deeper into things, and YouTube gave me that. And like my TikTok before, most of last year, I spent a lot of time making these short films, like these little fictional narrative type of things, and those were really creatively fulfilling. And like it was a way of trying something new every single time and doing a lot of experimenting, which like as a filmmaker, it's the main thing you have got to encourage. Is just always trying something different, and social media and TikTok and specifically was like the best way of allowing me to do that. And so it used to be amazingly fulfilling. And then I'm the sort of person where I spend too much time on one thing and I hate it. And then I'm going to eventually hate YouTube, I'm pretty sure. But like I had to escape it. But then now I left my TikTok for a couple months. I didn't upload for a while. And I started thinking, okay, I do want to start building this up again, because if you want to be a successful creator nowadays, you kind of need to have fingers in both pies. And so I thought, okay, no posts in 2 months on TikTok. I don't really know how to do it. And so when I made this recent Donald Glover TikTok, I didn't try to follow any of the rules that I'd set myself beforehand. I kind of just came at it fresh. I was like, okay, I've got under a minute to try and condense everything I've had in the full video into like, a good story. But I just wasn't following like any of the stricter rules that I'd followed, like trying to hijack the attention and all that. And instead just let like the clips breathe for themselves a little bit. And it was so fun. Like I wasn't anticipating it, but like I ended up kind of enjoying editing the short form version more than the long one. Mainly because, one, just because it was like something new, but also just because like, well, yeah, both reasons. Just because it felt new, it felt fresh, and I don't know, like it ended up performing really, really well on TikTok, even after posting for like without so long. But then, yeah, I don't know. It's juggling. It's hard. I don't really know what I'm going to do next. I kind of want to bring on someone to make those for me and kind of just know how to condense it. But then finding someone who can have that sort of artistic vision to take something really long and make it small, and then not just follow the standard TikTok editing style. I don't want like just the standard yellow subtitle, one word at a time. It's kind of, I don't want it to feel like a podcast TikTok. What I mean? And so it's difficult to find that.
It's a little scary, right? Trying to bring in someone, because like when you're editing something, you know exactly what you want and like how it's going to move. And, you might see someone else where they know how to use the programs, but it's like, are you going to bring, what I want? And I think what's interesting about what you just said too, is that you kind of made your own edits specifically for TikTok rather than maybe just dicing up or clipping, the bigger video. Mm-hmm. And do you put a lot of emphasis on trying to drive traffic to the YouTube video, or do you feel like you just want it to be its own isolated thing on TikTok?
Yeah, I've toyed with both in the past. Last year I would make the full YouTube video and then make a TikTok that ended up kind of solely existing as a CTA, and I wanted someone to just go from that to straight to YouTube. But then I realized that's just not the best way of doing it. You have to approach it as its own piece of content, piece of art, and people, like, I just want people to see the brand as a whole. I want them to like whatever Dodford is on any platform. And I love it when someone comments, watch this video. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, or TikTok for a while. I didn't know you had this. And like that goes against a lot of like things you're told as a creator, where you need to try and blend everyone together. But like, I like being a little surprised like that when you realize that, okay, this person's a little bit more widespread than you thought. And if someone likes what you are on one platform, chances are if you've done it right, they like you for what you are. And so that way they'll like you on anything. And it's just I don't like watering down any one platform, saying that, yeah, this is me, but like I just want you to come over to this other one. That feels inauthentic. I'd rather people go to a platform to enjoy their time there, not like feel guilty for not being somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've been thinking of maybe changing my approach a little bit, because, for instance, last year I put out a short film that I'd spent a lot of time on, very important project to me. And I had done all the typical hurdles I was used to of like getting it out, promoting it on like Instagram and Twitter, where I'm a little bit more personal. And I just kind of didn't ever really get to promoting it on TikTok. And then months later, I was finally like, I need to make one. And so, I put out a thing, and it was kind of almost like an ad where I was saying like, hey, here's this thing you can watch over here. And I know that that's not really how people think or consume things.
Yeah.
And so for you saying that you just want people to kind of enjoy you and what you make regardless of where they are, that kind of makes it to where the TikTok stuff is just like its own channel with its own content that people are supposed to enjoy like by themselves. And then I guess if it's really good, maybe they'll go out of their way to go find out where you have the other things and be surprised.
Yeah, it just all comes down to building trust with anyone who watches your stuff. And if someone trusts giving you their time on 60 seconds of a short, then that's like impressive. It's impressive to like build that credibility with an audience. And once you've done that, then that's like step one to just them trusting you anywhere, and like they'll follow you anywhere. And that's just how like true fans are made. I think getting like a true fan is nowadays, that definition is that's been watered down. You know, like, doesn't matter. You can have 5 million followers on your TikTok account, and it's, you know, they wouldn't donate money to you, you know. But like when people are, so now like creators who are prioritized just pushing themselves over to people on like any platform, then they're doing it right. And that way, like, those are the people who, you know, would go crazy for their followers, and the followers would go crazy for them. And that's something that's really hard to build, but some people are doing it right nowadays.
Would you consider doing the picture-in-picture thing where you have like Subway Surfer and Kinetic Sand videos underneath your content?
No, I say no, but like I also want to try it. I know, you know, Philip DeFranco. He tweeted just the other day, like one of his video editors had been begging him for weeks to put a Subway Surfers on like just one of their like news clip TikToks. And obviously Philip was just like, no, don't do that. But he was begging him, and then eventually they put a Subway Surfers video on to their general just normal news TikTok, and it did way better.
You know,
it's fascinating.
That kind of stuff is almost like the antithesis of like what I stand for, but it's so funny to me. I'm like kind of wanting to just not even care and start doing that, like have very thoughtful introspective art and then just fucking tempo run. It's like our attention spans are getting so fried. It's
amazing. It's amazing. Like when you've got like crushed slime there, and then like Subway Surfers there, and then like a Family Guy clip in the top corner.
Yeah,
and then like a podcast interview on the other. It's just, it's actually fascinating. Like you hate it, but it's working because you can't peel your eyes away from it, and it's like you have to ask yourself why. But it's incredible.
That's premium entertainment right there. You get some dinner.
I know, something to pay for.
My biggest theory on it is that I think that people have such a fear of not spending their time right, and they know that there's so much stuff out there now that the idea of sitting down and committing to like, I'm gonna watch this movie right now and that's all I'm doing, I think people get a lot of anxiety from that, and that's why people will say like, oh, I can't watch a movie, but then they'll binge like 8 episodes of a show, right?
Yes.
Because it's more bite-sized. And I think by having picture-in-picture, it's like people are a little bit less timid, like, okay, I'll watch this guy's podcast clip as long as I'm allowed to look away every now and again and be entertained by something else.
Well, I think that's like I said, it just comes down to the trust. And if you don't trust a creator, then you're more likely to not give them 100% of your time, because it's an investment. You know, if you want to sit down and watch anything for a long time, you've made the decision. You think this is more important than me doing something else. And you know, like when I sit down and watch a film with my parents, they're the both types to sort of just scroll through their phone. They see a character, they see like a familiar face, and they'll just go through IMDb trying to find who it is. You know, I'm like, you can do that after. Just watch the film, and it drives me nuts. But it's just because like maybe when I watch it, I've got more trust in, you know, the people making it, or like the trust in knowing that it's going to be valuable to me as a filmmaker. And so like everyone approaches content and anything. Any piece of art in different ways. It just depends on who you are as a person, and like you know, how you feel about who's making it, because it's so incredible watching that and the Subway Surfer stuff. It's I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I reckon we're probably in too deep now, and
yeah, that's the new meta. That's what we're doing, for sure.
You're gonna find it in movie theaters eventually.
It's funny. It can be frustrating when you're watching something really good with someone and they're not paying fully attention, and you want them to. And when you're watching really well made art, like a great movie, it's like as a video maker yourself, that like a lot of times every little thing is intentional, like the way the camera's moving, or when it cuts, or like the lines the characters are saying aren't throwaway, like they all kind of convey a feeling. And so a lot of times people be like, what, I didn't miss anything, but you're like, oh, but if you saw this, and that's one thing I notice about your work is you put a lot of effort into things that are on screen very briefly. When the Donald Glover video starts and you have your little like cinematic intro, one example is you have like a shot of like the cast at Community, and it like zooms out, and I know you had to like import that, keyframe the scaling, make sure it was easy eased really well, and I'm sure that was like a 1 second long After Effects composition.
Yeah, well, to be fair, that like probably took 20 seconds to do genuinely, but yeah, there are some things where I'm sitting there at the end, and like I'm sitting there during it, I'm like, is this worth it? Is it worth it? But that's a decision you have to make throughout. Like it's gotta like working out if something is going to be worth it down the line. Like towards the end of that video, there was an animation that I scrapped, and it was going to be using the thumbnail where it's like a bunch of different photos of his face. And when I say these are the many faces of Donald Glover, it was going to be you'd see those pieces of paper like sort of mold and morph and create the face, and it was going to be like the final crescendo of an animation. It was going to be like it summed up the whole video in one. And I sat down there and I've been working on it for a month, and I thought it doesn't need it. It could just use the image I used on the thumbnail, and it says what I needed it to say. And so it's a lot of decision making a lot of the time where I'm like weighing up whether or not it's worth putting more time into it. And I would say like 3/4 of the time it is, but now and then you've got to ask, is there an easier way of doing it? And usually there is.
Yeah, totally. It's funny when you put a lot of time into something, then you realize like you don't need it. And then I don't know about you, but sometimes you put a lot of time into something and it's just not working. And in your head, it feels like it should work, and you feel like you have this great idea, but like in the process of making it, like this just does not hit the way I want it to. And sometimes you just kind of can't place your finger on it. And then you kind of have to decide to abandon or not. Do you run into that a lot, or do you feel like you usually kind of get things to where you want them to be?
I used to run in it a lot. I think when I used to feel very frustrated as a creative person growing up, and like as a teenager and stuff. Like I've always felt this way, that I had to be making stuff all the time. But before that became a reality, I just felt really frustrated and unfulfilled a lot of the time. And so I used to start things a lot and then quit very quickly, just because I had such a overwhelming urge to start something big and this huge project that I had in mind. And then, like 2 hours in, be like, oh, this is a lot of work, and give up. And so back then it was a lot of like trying something, giving up immediately, feeling sorry about myself for it, and then taking a long time to try it again. And the way that I solved it is just stopping treating creating as the start and end of a project, and more so just the act of it. And so I just gave myself like a rule that I had to create something every single day, and wherever it was in completion, that by the end of that day it was done. And so I did that all of 2021. I think it was just every single day I made something, and so many things were kind of just thrown in the bin and discarded and stuff, but I treated them as wins, because I was learning something new every single day, and it was a success, And so it went from like starting something massive, giving up immediately, hating myself for it, to then just having a mindset shift and thinking, oh, okay, I didn't complete this today and no one will ever see it, but I know how I did it, and I know how it made me feel, and I know how to do it tomorrow. I ended up just becoming a massive like improvement on everything I did, and now I don't feel that way anymore, really.
That's great. Something I've been thinking lately is how if you're a physical artist, like you draw or something, you have a sketchbook and you doodle, and not every doodle is like a finished thing that you're going to show someone. And I'm friends with some really amazing musicians, like my one producer friend. I've been in the room with him while he's like working on a beat for like half an hour. That sounds pretty good. And then I just see him drag it into the recycle bin. I'm like, what? You're just deleting it. But, doing that sort of thing all the time is kind of how you practice and get good. And I think for filmmaking, there's a little bit of a less of a notion of that, because setting up a camera and getting everything going, it feels like a whole ordeal where it's like, if you're doing it, this is going to be a thing. But I think what you were saying about doing something every day, or, just being okay with the practice of it and, just trying to take it, I guess, a little bit less seriously so you can keep going. That's really important. I wanted to ask really quick. I saw that you're a part of something called Outwest News. Do I have that correct?
Yes. Outwest Chronicles.
Okay, yeah. You want to explain what that is?
So it's a newsletter that I started over a year ago with two of my friends, Tejas and Sean, and they're both creators as well. And it was like, back then we were just three TikTokers, and that was all kind of like our main, platform. And we just both all realized unanimously, it was like, if TikTok died tomorrow, which, is threatening to do every single day, then we'd have nothing, we'd be screwed as creators, and there'd be no way of really coming back, because everything we'd made was there, and all our followers were there as well. And so the Outwest started as just a way of building out an email list of everyone who liked us, and then being able to reach them that way. But it's this weekly newsletter that we all write that hopes to inspire and inform beginner, intermediate, professional creators who are just looking for information from three people who are in it, and not experts. We're still learning every single day, but it's mostly our process. It's split up into two sections, where it's the first half is just information and facts and tips and helpful advice to help you in your journey as a creator. And the second half is our week in the previous week of what our life was creating. And it's just a nice little way of seeing what it takes from someone who's doing it, and what it might take out of you as well, and the things that you should consider, and parts you'd enjoy and parts you'd hate. Because it's very a lot of creator advice and stuff. It's very, it's an amazing job, and it's something that I want to encourage everyone to try. But it's a lot of time people skip over just all the negativity of it as well. And so we try and share the pros and cons of people who are doing it for real.
That's really awesome. Yeah.
You're gonna have to just cut to a Family Guy clip.
Oh my, that's so true. I should, what I should do is, in between topics, I should just cut to the house from Family Guy with the music, and this will be the entry back in.
Reestablishing the scene. Yeah. That's funny.
So hearing about your newsletter you were doing, I've noticed you definitely have a big theme of education and kind of trying to give what you know back to people. Yeah. And obviously that's a great way to have content to make, but I feel like if someone isn't passionate about education or helping other people, it can maybe be kind of bad. I don't really get that sense from you, so I'm curious, where does that come from? Do you just have an innate enjoyment of teaching or helping people, or what makes you want to do that?
I hadn't actually considered it. It's just something I've always gravitated towards. The very first videos I made on TikTok 2 years ago were tutorials, and that's just kind of, I think maybe as someone who has learned everything online, I've always had a soft spot for well-made tutorials and educational things that actually you can tell that it had the care put in. And so, just the first things I did were, how can I make a tutorial that stands out? Because a lot of it's just press record on OBS and kind of just walk through it. But when it's done right and you can tell it's, it stands out. And so that was what I did at first. And then yeah, since then I've kind of just adopted that role of educator. I've done a lot of workshops and online sessions, that made a course and stuff like that. So it's kind of like the role I ended up being in, but I do enjoy it a lot. I think I don't find any advantage of gatekeeping, like any information I have. I think if you're holding on to something, then unless it's like something really, really personal and secret, and it's something that you made yourself, with your whole heart involved, then maybe. But like everything I've learned, is nothing that no one else could learn, So like, why hold on to it anyway? Like if someone else is going to find out. So it's nice to just kind of share that on, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. I feel like when I was in film school, freshman year is when I got into Corridor Digital in 2014. And I learned so much from just watching their behind the scenes videos and just showing how they did things. And also makes the world of the art you're making feel so much more possible, because when you're starting off, you put a lot of limits on yourself on what you think you can do. So when you see other people doing great stuff and they're telling you how to do it, it's really amazing. So I appreciate that you have that mindset. What are some of your favorite, I guess we could do two questions here. What are some favorite places you learn from for tutorials, first of all?
So like I've learned essentially everything. I mean, I learned a bit in school, but I've never paid for any courses or paid for any education. It's all been Film Riot for like actual like filmmaking lessons and film theory. I've learned a lot, like you, through Corridor. Recently when I started taking editing seriously, channels like Hayden Hillier-Smith, that helped. But like, I don't know. I think you just end up being quite a good Googler and working out what video might actually do well. Like you can tell usually by the title and thumbnail a good YouTube tutorial or something. But I can't really think of bring anyone to name. When I was like making my taking like editing seriously again, a YouTuber I watched a lot was Brian Delamata, who does like music video effects. But besides that, no, just like knowing how to Google the right thing and knowing how to YouTube it, maybe just Googling and then put Reddit answers on the end.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Adding Reddit to your Google search solves
Definitely.
everything. And then secondly, I wanted to ask, since, you make video essays and analysis and that sort of stuff, do you have any favorite channels that make that type of work?
Nerdwriter is a big one. Film Riot, that got me into it a lot. My mind's going blank, but Nerdwriter was a huge inspiration. Yeah, definitely. Because I think he was like the first time I watched a video essay that, and like I learned that it can be so much more. Like that's one of the reasons that I don't really like the term video essay, because sometimes they are that, but a lot of the times that you could classify yours as a documentary as well. And it's, Nerdwriter was like an example for me where every single frame, like in a film, every single frame, every single cut, every single line was it had forethought and intention, and that just is such an inspiration. He's definitely like one of the best creators on the platform.
Yeah, totally. I remember it was 2014 and I was a freshman, and Every Frame a Painting was kind of. Yeah, that for me, that was like the one where I was blown away at how much information was being explained so concisely, and his points were just so well made. And then I remember like a few months later, Nerdwriter felt like they were kind of the two that were really blowing up at the same time, and they were buddies with each other. And my theory is that this whole boom of this genre is because of those two, because I don't know, maybe that's just the trend I noticed, but that makes a lot of sense, because both of them are just really excellent editors.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you have any like tools or resources or things you use as a video maker that you think people should know about? Because obviously these days, with the rise of AI and like a lot of just kind of third-party privately made tools, I think while skill and practice plays a still such a huge role with the quality of things made. There's also like all these tools being made that are kind of giving people superpowers, so to speak. So I'm curious if there's anything that you utilize that people should know about.
No, when it comes to like tools and stuff, I think I just use the bog standard of everything. I like advanced my skills as an editor like 20-fold just learning After Effects. So like, just if you're an editor and you're contemplating that, just do it. Just learn After Effects and it'll help. But when it comes to like making the longer videos, there isn't really like a secret or a hack to it. It's just I think you might need, like, the best editors need like a strong sense of empathy. And like I have to sit down and, like, if I'm starting a project, I'll give myself a day or two just to like absorb the subject and ask myself how I feel about it and where the story is. I'll pace around this room back and forth, just like contemplating everything. And I don't know, maybe the secret is just to like try not to rush everything. Like, ask yourself what everything means. Put down the camera and tell yourself, why does it belong there? Why do I want it to look this way? And it's all just like, the best filmmakers, they're not 99% of the time, they're not like using some secret sauce. It's just they know how to ask the right questions, and that's just what it all boils down to. So I think you've just got to sit down and ask the same questions about why you're doing something that way. And if you keep saying why, eventually you'll get down to the place it should be, or why you want it to feel that way. I don't know. That's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of where it comes from.
No, that's great. It makes a lot of sense. Lately, that came to mind for me because, I use like the website AE Scripts sometimes to buy like additional effects that you can add to After Effects. But outside of a few things like that, I've been kind of just using the basics. But now I'm like, I'm seeing people just make all this trippy artwork using AI, and now people are starting to use like Chat GPT to like write their scripts for them and stuff like that. And it's I don't know, it's kind of a whole new world happening very, very fast.
I Chat GPT, like, I feel conflicted on it, because like, I definitely, if you just say that here's the premise of my video, write me the first 60 seconds, and you use that, I strongly disagree with that type of thing. I just feel you should feel wrong about that. But I've been using it to like help with like SEO of things. I know it has a really good brain for working out YouTube titles and thumbnails. And I've been, for my next video, I've just been asking it, I ask, here's the contents of the video, give me 25 titles. I pick a few, I whittle down, and then I take one title and I say, okay, which type of audience does this title relate to, and how could it be improved to like reach a wider audience? And it'll give you an answer for all that sort of thing. And that's using a different part of brain that's not creative, and for me, and one that I don't have. It's kind of just like one who's really good at marketing and shit like that. So I think it definitely has a place for that sort of thing, where you can use it to work on your branding and your marketing and reachability. But if you're just using it as a free employee for like a creative role, then you're losing a lot of your integrity as an artist.
Yeah, that's a great point. Using it for things like a YouTube description, even like that's, like just a utility thing. But I was thinking about it, and if someone wanted to tell it like, hey, here's all the facts I have, now take these and write it for me in the form of a Nerdwriter video essay, I'm sure it could do that. And obviously then you still have to do the work to like make the video, but obviously that's a bummer, because maybe people then would, so to speak, be like cheating to get ahead, and it might kind of turn art into a bit of a hyper capitalism thing. But for me, like, the bigger bummer too is that what such a joy of like watching art is knowing that it comes from a person and a perspective and an emotional connection. And so if you're watching stuff that it's really kind of just a shell of content that someone's more so just making as work, and some people are doing that now even without AI, just by making kind of stuff that they don't really care about. So to take that a step further and have it to be where they had a computer write it for them and their factory making their videos, that'll be a very bleak state to be in, I think.
It's not good. It's destructive. It goes back to, again, what I was just saying a minute ago, just, asking yourself why, and that human perspective, that human touch, that can't be replicated. And you will feel it in a video that's made by a human versus by AI, and like it might be a subconscious thing, but it's so scary, because it's going to get to a point where we'll see so much stuff. I mean, you already scroll through TikTok now and it's an AI voice or an AI face, and it's probably been written and stitched by an editor, by an AI editor. So like, yeah, it's like a weird time to be getting in, but I think if you also can't ignore it. I think if you're an artist now and you still want to stay on top or ahead, then you have to know how to utilize it that will benefit you, that will still feel okay to you. I don't know. It's so complex, and it's hard to really like have a good conversation about it now when we don't really know anything about it yet.
Yeah, and my biggest hope is that although using tools like that will definitely just kind of give people a ton of numbers without much effort, my hope is that our human intrinsic desire to connect with things will make intentionally made work like what you do still shine through and connect with people. Because I think that just very specific and intentionally made things that come from a perspective people will still love. And that's why, even though like we have these huge franchise blockbusters, just like a really good, unique movie can still connect with people. It just has a harder time with distribution. So we can start to wrap up, and I just want to ask you just like a few more quick questions. It's still very early in the year. You just had a very successful video just to kind of tee off with. I'm curious if you have any specific goals for yourself, whether or not like it's video topics you want to talk about or new types of things you want to make that you haven't done before.
Like a long-term goal for me is to expand these documentaries into like real interviewing type of things. I would like to travel and record my own primary research, do some interviews with like real subjects, and like travel to locations and stuff. That way I kind of do like a Louis Theroux type of thing, but be them really like Johnny Harris edited, that type of stuff. I don't know if I'm able to achieve that this year, but like honestly, I just want to keep creating videos about people I like. I know that eventually I'm going to think, can I just tell my own stories now, and not have to rely so much on other people? But I'm not there yet, and so I kind of want to just keep doing what interests and fulfills me now. I haven't really got any desires to be doing anything different. I'm very happy with like what I've landed on and what seems to be working, and like it means there's an endless supply because we're constantly being inspired by new people, and it's also lucky that people can latch onto that because there's going to be hot topics, like we said earlier, that I will coincide with people I'm interested in that seem to be a good, that's the benefit of a video essay type of thing, is that you can benefit from the world's interests. But we'll see. I still feel like a baby in the womb when it comes to YouTube, and I know that if I just keep working on it, there will be I'm sure there'll be a bright future. I want to hope that that's the case, but I'm just taking it 1 month at a time.
No, that's great. And, it's like there's going to be time for everything. It's like if right now you're doing documentaries and video essay and then you kind of work to interviewing people, I don't think that'll ever stop you from then being able to switch and then tell your own stories. And so I think that's great. I also wanted to ask, is there anything that you wanted to talk about or like you wish I asked you about just for this end part?
No, I guess... I had a final note of inspiration that I wanted to give, but
yeah, we can do that.
on the AI conversation, it was like the biggest benefit every creator has now is that you are uniquely you. Like that's what it comes down to, and it's if you're an artist, not everyone's going to consider themselves an artist, but if you're making videos on YouTube, if you're creating online, then you are a filmmaker. And it's, no one can like strip away what makes you you. And it was the final note in my Donald Glover video, whereas, you know, no one can outdo you at being you. And if you just really hone in on that and you use that to your advantage, then you are unstoppable. It's to use what I said earlier. It's simultaneously never been a better time to be a filmmaker, and also right now, if you use that to your advantage and use you to your advantage, then you're gonna excel, because like you said, things are gonna shine through when in all this ocean of muck. So yeah, like it should be an optimistic time regardless of everything else going on, to follow your passion, man. Just do it. You gotta pursue it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm really glad that you ended your video on that note as well, because I think that's very emblematic of what he stands for. And that's why, you know, I wanted to talk about him on my own as well. And I think it did show too that you know, offer perspective and inspiration through your work besides, you know, just telling like facts, so to speak. So yeah, thanks so much for meeting with me. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I think that you have just a lot of artistic intention and attention to detail and charisma in the work you're making. And I appreciate that. I don't know, I'm excited to see the next stuff you make.
Yeah, we'll see. Me too. I appreciate it, Zane. It's actually been a pleasure. A lot.
Good.
I could talk about this forever. We're both nerded out, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, I'm here in Arizona. You're across the ocean over in the UK. Yeah. So I'm about to start my morning. I'm sure you'll be wrapping up your evening.
Winding
here.
Down now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess finally, your YouTube channel is Dodford and Sorry.
Dodford.
Oh my mistake. Dodford.
No worries.
And is that going to be your @ on all social medias as well?
It is on most things. On YouTube is Dodford YT.
Okay, great. And I'll just have that on screen too. Okay, awesome. So yeah, thanks for meeting with me, and have a great night.
You too, Zane. Thank you so much.